All right, here we go. Here's another comparative advantage question. This is the macro 2008 question. Now again, they ask these sort of questions on the macro free responses, but it's not as often on the micro free responses. Now let's make sure you completely understand the concept, just in case they do throw one of these on the micro free responses. What we have is two countries, Rayland and Artland, and I've converted the graph, the production possibilities curve they gave you, into a chart with hats and bikes. The first step of these questions is converting all this to per unit opportunity cost so we compare countries. So for Rayland, every single time they produce hats, they can produce 1,200 hats, but they're giving up 300 bikes. So each one hat is 1/4 a bike. Now when they produce bikes, they are producing 300 of them, and they're giving up the opportunity to produce 1,200 hats. So each one bike for Rayland cost them 4 hats they could have made. Their per unit opportunity cost. For Artland, every single time they produce hats, they're giving up a certain number of bikes. So each one hat costs them 1/2 a bike. And each one bike cost them 2 hats they could have produced. Now let's answer the questions. For Artland, each one bike. So Artland, one bike produced gives up 2 hats they could have made. There's your answer, no explanation required, 2. In question B, they're asking which of these two countries, after they specialize in trade, should import bikes? Let's start over here. Which of these countries should produce bikes? The one that gives up 2 hats or the ones that give up 4 hats? Well, the one that has a lower opportunity cost, the comparative advantage, Artland should produce bikes. Now Rayland has a lower opportunity cost in the production of hats, so they have a comparative advantage in the production of hats. In that case, which one should import bikes? Well, the answer is Rayland. Now this is an explain question, so you have to explain how you got the answer Rayland. The reason why is because Rayland has a comparative advantage in the production of hats. All right, now this is the tricky part of the question. It tells you if these countries specialize in trade, and the terms of trade is 5 hats for 1 bike, is it advantageous or not advantageous for Artland and for Rayland? Artland's going to specialize in the production of bikes. If they wanted hats, they can make it themselves, right? So 1 hat would cost them 1/2 a bike they'd have to give up if they wanted to produce hats themselves. But in these terms of trade, it's better and more advantageous for Artland to trade 1 bike for 5 hats, right? As opposed to just making it themselves, giving up 1/2 a bike and getting only 1 hat for it, they could go ahead and trade 1 bike and get 5 hats. So for Artland, this is advantageous. This is the terms of trade that Artland would like. Now let's look at Rayland. Rayland produces hats. That's where we're going to specialize. If Rayland decided to produce bikes on their own, they're going to give up 4 hats in order to get 1 bike. But under these terms of trade, they'd have to give up 5 hats in order to get 1 bike. So these terms of trade are not advantageous. On a side note, 1 bike for 3 hats would be advantageous for both countries. I got that by looking right here. Any number above 2 and any number below 4, any number in between those will benefit both countries. Last question, question D. If productivity in Artland triples, which country has a comparative advantage in the production of hats? Well, if Artland triples, that means this is going to go up to 1,800, and this is going to go up to 900. Now, even though the raw numbers have gone up, right, the per unit comparative advantage stays exactly the same. And so the comparative advantage in hats still goes to Rayland. That's it. That's the answer, comparative advantage.